Well, this is awkward.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Bolt City podcast, courtesy of Odyssey. Dave Palais, Josh Palais, Mario Heron will join us in just a second. But we're going to start the show off, guys, as far as by interview and get a little bit of insight what's going on with the Los Angeles Chargers from Nick Cothrel. Nick, of course, covers the team for ChargersReport.com, also covers the Chargers for Sports Illustrated. And Nick, we appreciate your time. I know the team's 4-3, but for all of us on this show, we feel like it almost is like they went into the bye week with a losing record. We're very disappointed with this 4-3 mark. For you, your expectations of the 2022 Chargers, is this what you expected the team to be, or are they playing below what you expected?
Yeah, those expectations entering the year were pretty high. And I don't think anybody saw the season unfolding the way it has, just with the injuries just mounting what feels like week after week after week. But like you said, at the same time, they're still 4-3, and given everything they've had to overcome, that's not the worst place that they could be right now. I get a lot's doom and gloom, and it was a pretty bad loss going into that bye week, and that's something that they're going to have to sit on, during this week off. But at the same time, if the playoffs started right now, they'd be in consideration to get into the postseason. And well, I guess what I'm trying to say is it could be much worse than it is right now. And certainly they have things to clean up, and they all know it. But at the same time, I think they're kind of in that middle ground right now.
Do you think Justin Herbert deserves the criticism he's received this week, or do you think that goes more on the coaching?
I guess explain like what kind of criticism you're talking about.
People say that Justin Herbert isn't playing up to his abilities. Do you think that's because he's really not playing up to his abilities, or do you think the play calling, throwing the ball in the flat, what seems like 20 times a game, is not really showing off what he can do from a talent perspective?
Yeah, I think the last 2 weeks haven't really been a true representation of who Justin is, and I think a lot of it is we forget he's still playing through a fractured rib cartilage. We ask him every week, and he says it is getting better, but I think he also isn't willing to just reveal how much pain he's actually going through when he is playing. There's been games where it looks like it's not an issue, and then there's been games where, like last week, it just kind of seemed like the zip was on, his balls were off, his timing was a little off, and there's a lot of factors that go into that as well. The top four receivers, Keenan Allen, has barely played at all this year. Mike Williams is going to miss time moving forward. Joshua Palmer has had an ankle issue. He's had a concussion. Jalen Guyton's been out since week 3. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. And then, like you said, the play calling, hasn't been great. But again, you got to have the personnel to draw up, some of these concepts where you can use Herbert's, ability to throw that deep ball, because he does it, one of the best in the league. But at the same time, Chargers don't have a guy to get to that deep part of the field. So it's difficult to, kind of hit on those bombs like he did last season.
Speaking about the Chargers not having guys to be able to stretch the defense, I mean, we talk on this show all the time about what's the lack of basically stretching the field, at least the threat that you could go deep, and they don't show it. And it makes it a lot easier for the defense to prepare, but basically we're going to keep everything 20 yards in front of us and we're going to be okay. It has been frustrating watching the way the offense has attacked other teams' defenses. At the same time, not going to hide it. Before the season even started, I thought as talented as this team was when healthy, the only question I thought was maybe the coaching. And we're at a point now in the season where this is where changes are made, not exactly with coaches, but with players. And we're seeing even the Chiefs who pulled off a deal today to get another wide receiver. Yeah. And you're going, God dang, man, that's a guy right there that would have fit the Chargers. That's someone that the Chargers desperately need. And here we are. As far as the Chargers not making moves, is this what you would expect from a Tom Telesco team? Or would you have said, hey, I expected for them to be a little bit more active?
History shows that history would indicate that they're not going to make a move just based on Tom Telesco's tenure. With his 10 years with the Chargers, he hasn't acquired a player ahead of the deadline. So, that's pretty telling there. But at the same time, everything that the Chargers poured into this roster heading into the season, that all-in approach, I think everything's on the table. I think if they, they said they're going all in, they've had a lot happen, but at the same time, those expectations are still there. Like, regardless of the injuries, they're still going to be carrying those expectations throughout the course of the season. And if they really want to kind of, kick things into gear, relative, following that really tough loss against Seattle, I think they have to go out and get a receiver. Now, is it going to happen? That's tough. Like I was saying, like, the Chargers just haven't operated like that in the past, but they also haven't had off seasons like they just had, heading into this season either. So those kind of counteract each other. You mentioned Kadarius Toney, and like he was a very intriguing guy. Obviously, somebody that would bring that speed element to the Chargers, but at the same time, he hasn't played since week 2. So, the Chargers need guys with a proven track record of who are available. And Kadarius Toney has had injuries since he got into the league. So, it's a nice shiny toy for the Chiefs, and one that I'm sure Andy Reid, will scheme up, how he typically does. But I think that was going to be a tough sell for the Chargers just based on his availability, kind of a thing. And I know Brandon Cooks has been a guy out there, but he has like a $23 million cap hit next season. To me, the Elijah Moore situation makes the most sense just based on, he's disgruntled there in New York. He wants to be involved, and the Chargers, their offense needs exactly what he brings. And, with all the injuries, he would certainly be used in this Chargers offense.
The Chargers have played one of the easier schedules so far. They've only played 2 teams with a winning record. Out of the 8 guys in the top 100, 6 have been injured. Would you take it almost as a positive that the Chargers are 4-3 with the amount of injuries that they've sustained? After this bye week, I feel like they could be competitive if you get some of these guys back.
If you said at the beginning of the season, if you laid out the guys that are injured, the Keenan Allens, the Rashawn Slaters, and Corey Linsley's missed a couple of games, Joey Bosa, if you laid all those guys out on paper, I think fans probably would take, 4-3 and be content with that. But it's just those expectations entering the year were so astronomically high that it was almost unfair expectations to an extent. Now, certainly you're always going to want more. And I think the Chargers have done, about as good of a job as they can in trying to, overcome these injuries. Most of them are all on offense. And, that's been it was a top 5 unit last year. And then this year they can't run the ball. Last 2 weeks, the passing game has really been inconsistent. So just a lot of moving parts. And like you kind of alluded to, I think 4-3 right now is, it's not ideal, but I think they're in a fine spot.
The interesting thing about the NFL is the window of opportunity, as you hear all the time about, hey, this is our chance. And the NFL, of course, you can fix things really fast too. For the Chargers, though, this is their window of opportunity. I mean, you have a young franchise quarterback that doesn't have the big contract yet. You have Austin Eckler. You have Mike Williams. It looks like at times, hey, I'm invested 100% into my job as far as being an elite wide receiver. When Keenan Allen comes back, we expect Mike Williams to be that much better. And Derwin James, I think about all the time, too, because Derwin, as good as he has a history of being injured. Derwin has remained healthy so far this year. So for me, looking at it just as a fan of the team that wants to see them do well and believe that they're a top 3 team in the AFC when everything's clicking, I'm frustrated that Tom Telesco and the Chargers haven't been more active. I mean, again, you're throwing Elijah Moore out there, guys that we've talked about on this show too. And I'm wondering, is Tom Telesco either it's not in his nature to jump in and possibly ruin the salary cap for years to come? Or is it Dean Spanos? Is it the Spanos family that says, hey, no, we're going to stay with what we got? What's the Chargers thinking as far as all in? Because, again, that trophy case is bare. Eventually at some point, it's not going to get better than the roster you have right now.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I can't exactly speak on to why they haven't been active in the trade market in recent years and even up until this point this season. But, I guess it's just part of their philosophy. And, I also think that what's kind of goes a little unnoticed is like even some of these trades at the deadline, like last year, Odell Beckham, for example, it took him about like 3 weeks to finally get up to speed. And then he kind of hit the ground running with the Rams. So it's not exactly just like a plug and play transition when you acquire a guy at the deadline. So perhaps that's some of the logic behind, the lack of moves and just kind of that aspect in previous seasons. But, I just think that this is, like you mentioned, that this is their window, and they operated like that entering the season. And so once you've already, kind of dipped your foot in the pool, you're in. So I think that this is, like you said, this is their window. And I think they have to go out and get that wide receiver, whether they're going to or not. So that's, going to be a wait and see, but they certainly need help in that wide receiver department. There's no doubt about it.
So far, what would you say your biggest surprise is for this team? My biggest surprise so far has been Khalil Mack. I didn't think he was as good as he's been playing this year. From a negative or positive perspective, what player has surprised you the most so far?
I guess just player-wise, what surprised me the most is on defense, by and large, it's been better, but it hasn't taken quite the jump that everybody, had hoped of. But when you look at individually, like Drew Tranquill has taken a step forward. Kenneth Murray has. Bryce Callahan has been solid. Asante Samuel looks like he's taken a step. So you have all these players on defense, and it's like, a lot of those guys I mentioned, they're probably off to like the best season of their individual careers. But by and large, when you factor in the defense as a whole, they're still susceptible to the big plays. They're still not, even a top half of the league off, like not even top 15, top 10 defense, excuse me. So that's what's kind of been concerning to me. You bring in 6 to 7 new starters on defense. In training camp, it looked like they were all meshing. A lot of these guys have a background of already played in Brandon Staley's scheme. And so there's a lot of draw in bringing those guys in. And then the first 2 weeks, it looked like, boom, this is going to be a formidable unit. And then since then, even Brandon Staley has said, we've been up and down. And so, maybe this bye week will be good. They can really kind of, get some, fine tune some of these issues and stuff. But that's been concerning to me is, you brought in all these new guys, and really the results have been pretty minimal in terms of taking that step forward from where they were last year.
Nick, you're around this team a lot more in person than we are. When you walk into that locker room and in that facility and you look at these Charger guys, like in the past, it was when I was there, it was always, it was obviously Phillip Rivers. It was Eric Weddle. It was guys who obviously control the locker room, different sections of the locker room. There always like 4 parts of the locker room. Nick Hardwick, those guys. When you walk in that locker room, is Justin Herbert one of those guys that controls the locker room, or does he still take it as this is my age, this is who I am? I'm not that guy that jumps in and controls it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's the most outspoken person. He's a very quiet individual. For the most part, he is pretty reserved when he is in the locker room, but he also speaks weekly at the podium. So kind of, him speaking to the press is a little bit different than a lot of the other guys, just because he's scheduled to speak at the podium each week. He's a quarterback of the team. But by and large, I would say that like Derwin James and Drew Tranquill and Austin Eckler, Sebastian Joseph Day, those seem to really be like the guys that are real leaders in that locker room, kind of, speak for the team, following tough losses, really are locker room guys that the team rallies behind. Derwin James, after the Seattle game, he was saying like, nobody's pointing fingers. We still believe in everything where we're at right now. Just kind of speaking to Brandon Staley's vision for the team. And, they lost 2 of the first 3 games, right? And so things, were kind of low, and then they went on a 3-game winning streak. So they've had both sides of it, the highs, the lows. But overall, I still think the locker room is in a pretty steady place right now.
Nick, I don't know if you're a betting man, but if you were a betting man, how would you predict that this season plays out? They have the 4th hardest remaining schedule. If you had to say what happens, what would you say?
I actually saw a metric based on the DVOA, and it said that they were like bottom 5 in for the easiest remaining schedule. So
wow.
I know there's different like data points based on, are they going off of points per game, blah blah blah, different metrics, of course. But I was doing a thing yesterday, kind of looking at the season moving forward, and I had them at 10-6. So I don't know. I see them getting to 10 wins. It's just it's going to be tough, right? And if these injuries keep, going one after the other, it feels like there's a new injury every week. Obviously, there's going to be a point where they can't overcome that. But at the same time, you got to feel like they're going to catch a break at some point. And then, they're optimistic that Joey's going to be back. Mike Williams, he's expected to be out for 4 weeks. If they can really coming out of the bye, these next couple of weeks are really going to tell a lot about this team. I think just based on this is probably going to be the thinnest the thinnest point that they're at in terms of, the guys that are still injured. You still have Joshua Kelly, who waiting for him to come back. Even their kicker Dustin Hopkins is hurt right now. But I kind of see a path towards 10 wins. Really the back half of the season, the final month seems to be pretty good path for them. So if they can kind of handle some business during this tough time, and then assuming they get some of these guys back, I do think there's a path to 10 wins still. Who knows, man? This season has shown that it's truly any given Sunday. But at the same time, I still am optimistic about what this Chargers team is capable of.
Man, the funniest thing you said to me right there was, you have to think at some point they're going to catch a break. There are people that are saying they've been waiting since 1960 for the Chargers to catch a break.
That's fair. That's fair.
That they're due. All right, real quick, Nick, and we'll let you go. Is Brandon Staley and is Tom Telesco, are they on the hot seat right now?
I wouldn't say they're on the hot seat right now. Not at all. I think Brandon Staley, undoubtedly, he's going to get this entire season to put his touch on the team and see how far he can take them. They were on the doorstep of reaching the playoffs last year. Obviously, fell short in that crushing loss against the Raiders. But he's had a ton of input in constructing this team. Like I mentioned, a ton of the guys they brought in free agency all had Brandon Staley ties. So I think I don't think it would be a smart move at all to not let him, finish out a season to see what he can do. At the same time, like we talked about, they're still 4-3. Like they still have a winning record, and obviously the expectations are more than just to have a winning record. Like they need to make the playoffs. If they don't make the playoffs, I think that's probably a different conversation, especially optimizing this window. But I don't think you can say either one are on the hot seat right now at this point.
Nick, really appreciate your time. That was a lot of fun. Again, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, guys. Anytime.
That's fantastic. That's Nick Cothrel. Again, he covers the Chargers for ChargersReport.com, also for Sports Illustrated. I appreciate your time. Hopefully, Nick, we can catch up with you when even the team has a little bit better of a record. Again, thank you so much.
No problem.
That was, it's interesting, Josh, and I feel like out of the three of us doing the show, you, me, Mario, that, obviously I'm the guy that comes in negative. And, because of age, I've seen this team a lot longer than you guys have seen this team. And I've been watching Charger football, man, since I was a little kid. I mean, I'm talking like late 70s when I first fell in love with football. And the reason I fell in love with the Chargers is the Chargers were the team that scored a lot of points. And so when you sit there and you go through trying to learn the game as a kid, you go like, what is a touchdown? And the Chargers scored more of them than anybody. They were fun. And they threw the ball. Back then in the late 70s with Dan Fouts and those guys, everybody was a running team first. And so the Chargers were easy to fall in love with as a kid. When you go in the backyard, you don't practice handoffs and then running down the front yard. It's all about throwing the ball and making a crazy catch and everything else with your buddies. The Chargers were an easy team to fall in love with. That being said, this team hasn't won anything. They won an AFL championship in like 1963. There's not a trophy case in the Charger organization, basically, that has Los Angeles and the word Chargers together. There's nothing as NFL and has championship together. So they haven't gotten a break, and everything seems to fall their way. And when we talk about the window of opportunity with some of these guys, I mean, the fact that Derwin James is still healthy with all the injuries, when do you expect Derwin James's history is he's one of those guys, knock on wood, it doesn't get hurt this season. But you are aggressive now. I am disappointed in what's happened during this bye week and how other teams are making moves and how the Chiefs got better today. And as far as Tony coming in from the Giants, dude, everyone with the Giants says the guy's 100% healthy. It was the fact that him and Dable couldn't get on the same page with each other. He's going to come in and make Andy Reid's team better. The 49ers got better. Teams that are supposed to be considered elite teams are getting better right now. And the Chargers just sitting there frustrates the hell out of me. It's the definition of insanity, right? You're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I'm frustrated because I feel like time's running out on this team when this is a golden opportunity to make a run.
Couldn't agree more. Kadarius Toney is the exact player that the Chargers need, fast as hell. And the Chiefs just beat the crap out of the 49ers. They don't need anybody. I mean, if you think about it, who do they really need? But they know that you actually do need guys to win. You can't be complacent. It does bother me, man. Everybody knows Kadarius Toney is a much better player than what he's shown with the Giants just because the coach and him can't be on the same page. I don't know if you remember him at Florida. Alabama couldn't stop him. Alabama had a ton of NFL guys on that defense. He's been a baller for a long time, and it is extremely frustrating when your biggest rival takes the player that you need.
Yeah, and you got to move quick. 2 NFC teams have already made a move. Chiefs made a move. There's going to be another AFC team that's going to make a move. You got to do something. You got to be active. And I want to go back to your point that you said there, Dave, about the, pretty empty trophy case or not even one with the Chargers. I'd argue that's, I think, one of the reasons why, Nick said that Staley and Tom are pretty comfortable because you don't have that history of success. You don't have that history of championships. And I think because you don't have the history of that, you're like, hey, where we're sitting right now with all these stars, let's take that. Like I feel like that's the thing where like, hey, this is fine. Where if this was a place like New England or Pittsburgh where it's like, no, pressure's on you. Pressure's on you. We're used to success. We're used to winning seasons. There's some anger here. There's some angst here. You got to do something. You got to be pretty active right now.
The Chargers have an interesting fan base because you have the old school fan base that followed the team for forever. I mean, even longer than me. And then you have obviously the Los Angeles fan base where you're trying to bring new people in to say, okay, the NFL's back in LA. It was over 20 years since there was an NFL team in Los Angeles. And here come the Chargers and Rams back in. And for people who aren't aware, the Chargers started in Los Angeles. In 1960, they're there in LA for 1 year. Then they moved to San Diego and then back to LA. So to build a fan base, people in Los Angeles are used to winning. There are things to do in Southern California. When the weather's nice, hey, the beach is always right there. There's always a reason to leave the house. It's not Buffalo. It's not Green Bay where we're going to stay home and watch the games on TV or be invested in this franchise. You're competing with the weather and you're competing with the Rams, who are the Super Bowl champions. And Mario, what I think you're saying is the Patriots are used to winning. The fan base knows what it's like to be a champion. All it takes is one time for you to win to want that feeling back again. And the Chargers have never had that win. Like one of the questions I would love to ask without I'd probably be escorted right out of the building is to ask the Chargers, hey, when you guys win a Super Bowl, where are you guys going to put that trophy case? I'm looking around the building and I'm just curious, where does that go? Who's moving the golf clubs? Because there's no trophy case here. It's embarrassing. You're talking about a franchise that's been around 63 seasons, and yet there's nothing to show for it.
Yeah, I look at the other teams in Southern California. When you look at the Padres and Dodgers, the Padres have been the Chargers compared, to the Dodgers being the Rams, if you want to say it like that. They went out and they made moves. They try to say, we got to be better. We got to compete with the Dodgers. I look at the Clippers and the Lakers. Clippers, the same thing. If we want to be anything, we need to be competitive every year, not just once in a while, every year. So it bothers me when I see a team like the Chargers who have sustained a ton of injuries. We know how that happens. But don't give up on the season, because as a fan, when I see that you're not making any moves, I'm thinking you gave up on the season. We can't have that, dude. We have too good of a team. We still have a winning record, like Nick said. But still, man, we're kind of irrelevant at this point in the city of Los Angeles. The Rams have been bad. They still have many more fans than the Chargers have for a reason. They just won the Super Bowl. Let's stay competitive consistently, because this year it seems like they're really just throwing in the towel.
Yeah, and your offseason move screamed out, we're going for a run. We're going for a Super Bowl run. Don't give up on that now. Keep going with that. You signed Mac. Trade for Mac. You signed J.C. Jackson. You signed and you made moves that point towards a run. Stay on that run. Stay on that trajectory. Don't get off the road now. Don't peel right. Keep going straight. We're there. We're so close. Maybe kick a guy out of the card. Staley, I don't know. But you stay on the course and stay on your goal of where you want to be.
When you have a franchise quarterback, you're always supposed to be, hey, there's an opportunity. You have a franchise quarterback. That's why I asked the question about the locker room. Because not saying you have to come in and be Ben Roethlisberger jerk guy, but at the same time, you got to let people know it's not okay. Things aren't okay. What we're doing right now is not okay. The offense isn't okay. And I'm sorry, if Justin Herbert can't throw the ball more than 20 yards because of his ribs, if that's the case, which I don't believe. I put this on Lombardi. We saw him in that Hail Mary that he threw a couple weeks ago at the end of the half where, I'll be honest with you, it was weak. It was not impressive. It was supposed to be, I think, a 55-yard pass in the end zone, and he was 10 yards short. But man, you got to go further than 20 yards. If I was a defensive coordinator, this is a dream situation going against the Chargers, knowing that they're never going to throw the ball more than 20 yards. Crazy.
Dude, it's crazy. I enjoyed having Nick on, but I don't know where he saw that the Chargers have one of the easier schedules, because when I look at who the Chargers have remaining, you tell me where the easy win is, dude. I'm going to go through this. I don't know, Mario, if you want to go over who we picked before.
Yeah,
but I'll just go through.
I do want to redo this because I feel like I owe Mario an apology before we even start. You know, I literally told Mario I will walk from Atlanta back to Los Angeles if the Falcons win. And all of a sudden, the Falcons aren't as bad as I thought, and the Chargers are worse than I thought. So I would like to go through this again with the Chargers.
Yeah, I'll have Mario read what we picked originally. But as I said before, Mario reads this, you tell me where the easy win is out of these remaining games. So you go, Mario.
Okay, so before heading into the bye week, we all went through a schedule, and this is where we all had them standing. Me and Dave, we both sat him at 6-1, might have been a reach. Josh had him only a game out, 5-2. And when we go through a schedule, Josh, you were probably the most spot on going through it all in terms of prediction. And then the rest, do you want me to go through the whole schedule of what we had? Or
I just want you to go through what Josh's 2 losses were. I know you and I, our 2 losses were at the Chiefs, right, Mario? So
yeah. Ours, actually, you got the Seahawks right, I think.
Josh, you had the Chargers losing to the Seahawks?
I have to hold on, it's in a different folder. I only wrote it out. But there was an absurd loss that you got right.
That's amazing. I definitely got the Jaguars one wrong. I said that'd be a blowout. I mean, I think we all thought that, though. I don't know, man. This season's so unpredictable.
It is, Chargers, but that's why we watch. That's all we watch.
Dude, these remaining games the Chargers have are tough, dude. If the Chargers got 10 wins, I would be happy. I'd be really happy.
I'd be pumped. I mean, that, yeah. And I'm trying to find the DVOA stuff because, like you said, when he said that, I'm on the DVOA site and I don't really see the easiness coming at all.
I think we surprised Nick a little bit with our attitude. Like, whoa, this guy's falling. What's up with these 3 guys?
Yeah.
That is. I feel like Adam Sandler in Billy Madison. You know, division multiplication. It's gonna be tough. You know, I'm looking at the schedule. I'm like, this schedule's gonna be tough. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't want to correct Nick either, but he said 10 wins. He said 10-6, and I think he meant 10-7 is what I think he meant. Obviously there's 17 games in the season, but 10 wins, and where does that put you? So real quick, Maura, as you're pulling up your stuff there, I wrote down exactly where the Chargers are. Like if the season ended today, I always love these updates as far as where the Chargers would be if the postseason started today. So right now, if the postseason started today, the Chargers are in as the number 7 seed. Okay, so the Chargers are in as the 7th seed playing the Chiefs. Bills would be the number 1 seed. Chiefs and Chargers 2 against 7. Titans number 3 against the Dolphins. It would be 3 against 6, and it would be 4 seed would be the Ravens against the Jets as the next playoff matchup. So the Chargers would be in the postseason right now, according to this bye week where we're at right here.
Yeah, they'd be in, but you wouldn't be happy about that matchup going to Arrowhead. It's tough. Just like we have the Chiefs. We have the Chiefs twice a year. We know how tough the Chiefs are. Mario, do you want to read who we picked before? Or do you want to pick say who we picked going forward?
I'll go before. So actually, I did a bad count. So Josh, you had them losing to the Browns.
Okay.
In that game, so I got that mixed up. I thought it was Seahawks for a second. I was gonna be like, that was the greatest call I've ever seen. So going forward, who we had the rest of the schedule for the rest of the year? They take on the Falcons. I had that at a loss, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and get Dave some walking shoes. He can start that journey like Forrest Gump did. Get some trip in the end.
Let's cup it.
San Francisco, we all had them at a loss. Versus KC, we all agreed that they would split the series. I'm still for that, by the way. I still think they could split the series very, very much so.
I am too.
At Arizona, me and Josh had that as a W for the Chargers. Dave, you had that as an L. At Las Vegas, that becomes and is looking more and more like a harder place to play. Mm-hmm. And me and Dave took that as a loss. Josh, Road Warrior, took that as a win. Dolphins, we all have that a win. Tennessee, I said loss, and I'm really regretting that because I think Derrick Henry is going to be body's falling apart by then. Dave and Josh had that as a win. And then at Indy, I had that as me and Josh had that as losses. Dave had that as a win. And then
How do you guys feel on that one now, though? On that one, how do you feel now? Do you both feel that's a win now?
I'll let Mario answer.
If Shaq Leonard is healthy, I could still see that being a loss because he has that big impact on that defense. Other than that, I think that's a huge loss. Frank is gonna blow it towards the end of the season with a new quarterback.
Yeah,
You think so?
Yeah, I don't think
Absolutely.
the Chargers lose to the Colts. Not with the quarterback situation they have. I think the Colts could go down as one of the more disappointing teams in the NFL right now. Everyone picking
they already are.
division.
Yeah, I think they already are.
Going on top of that, we have Rams that next week. You guys took that as both losses. Would you change your opinion now on that based on how the Rams have looked?
Yeah, the Rams are going to get smoked this week too. The Rams play the 49ers this weekend, and we all know that Sean McVay's only beat them one time. It was the most important game to beat the Niners in the NFC Championship game, but the Niners are going to destroy the Rams. Right now, the Rams are nothing but Cooper Kupp. That is all they have on offense right now. It's a one-man offense in Cooper Kupp, and that is it. They are, to me, one of the more disappointing teams as well. No, I tell you what, I would switch that right now. I would take the Chargers in that game. The ones before, though, did major question marks with them facing the Dolphins. Major. You look at the weapons the Dolphins have right now. It's funny how the Dolphins have a former 49er coach. The Dolphins offense looks, obviously for a reason, looks a lot like the Niners, but you got Mozart and you got the two wide receivers that are insane, in Hill and Jalen Waddle. Boy, I could see that Dolphins and Titans game, back-to-back home games, be losses. Not like the Chargers play well at home. That's for sure.
My thing about the Chargers and Rams on January 1st is the Chargers do not play well in primetime, ever.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert, I'm sorry, he does not look like the same quarterback when he's in a primetime game. I don't know if it's because he played in the weak Pac-12 or because I don't know what's going on. But whenever Justin Herbert's in a primetime game, you go back to the Broncos game. The Chargers do not look like the same team. That'd be my only concern about the Rams game on January 1st.
The thing that would be interesting about it, if we get Bosa back, the Rams, they also can't block anyone, but especially against strong fronts, they fall apart, man. Stafford gets sacked like 7 times. They fall apart in every single way. So for that reason, I still feel pretty confident that if we have Bosa back, I think we can still pull that
That's a good point.
Win out pretty easily. And the Dolphins worry me, but at the same time, if they have another just little bit of an issue with an injury that causes a little bit more drama, that could make them pretty unstable.
Yeah, the Dolphins are hanging on by a thread. I don't know how many people follow the Miami Dolphins, but every week it's Tua, Tyreek, and Jalen Waddle. Are they going to play? And then they play, but it's like, dude, like you said, they are so close to being like a bad offense because all 3 of those guys are hurt every single week.
Yeah, I have them. Go ahead. Go finish, Mara.
Oh, I was just saying, I feel like they're a little bit scared to say Waddle's playing through, Waddle's playing injured because of everything that's happened this year. It's like, do we really want more of that PR of we're having guys playing through injuries? It's just bad mojo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So looking at Mara, can you tell us what our final record was now? I'm kind of curious. I'll tell you, I just looked at the schedule myself, writing it down as you were talking, and I know I changed my win total.
I went 11-6, and then both you guys went 12-5.
Yeah, I'm changing mine to. I'm like, I just threw up in my mouth. I'm going 10-7.
10-7.
10-7.
Yeah, I'm going 9-8.
9-8.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't get over some of these remaining games, man. You can't tell me at Atlanta's easy. That's a tough game. Who would have guessed that? At San Francisco with Debo and Christian McCaffrey when we can't stop a runny nose. We got Patrick Mahomes coming to town. He beat our butts last year. Dave and I were at that game. At Arizona, it's not far enough into the season where Kyler Murray falls apart. That could be tough. The Raiders, Mario nailed it. Dude, at Las Vegas could be the hardest game that we have remaining. I'm dead serious. That Raider team is legit the last few weeks. Dude, Miami's hard. Tennessee looks ridiculously good. Indianapolis probably the easiest game we have left, and that's away game. Rams, I told you we don't play good on primetime. Then got that weirdo Russell Wilson in Denver to end the season. That's hard, dude. That is
Yeah.
such a hard remaining schedule. I know I sound negative, but I'm being realistic. I don't know. If the Chargers get double-digit wins, you should be happy as a fan.
It's incredibly.
One thing he
What
just
were
said
you
about the Raiders, and we kind of touched on this on Sunday. The Raiders are coming together. I mean, you could see they're getting better week by week, and in a couple of reasons, I think guys are figuring out that offense. Josh Jacobs, I don't know what happened, and I know who they faced. Josh Jacobs, I think it finally clicked what I think a lot of people who drafted in fantasy football thought. This guy's playing for a contract. Like you better step up this year, Josh, because you are literally auditioning for 31 teams in this season. And the other day he looked like, hey, you know what? I want to remain in the NFL, and I want to be a star player, and I want a nice contract, and I want to be able to pick the right team. If he's able to play anything like what he played last Sunday, and then you have the guys who are figuring out the offense, boy, man, the Raiders are a scary team. I mean, the Raiders are really a scary team that I think you have to look out for. It's a shame. You almost wish that first game was the Raiders in Vegas and not, obviously in Vegas at the end of the year. But I don't even know, man, for the Chargers if it makes a damn difference if you're playing at home or playing on the road. I mean, god dang, you can't beat Seattle and you can't beat Jacksonville at home. What does it matter?
All right, Dave, let me ask you a question real quick. Do you have the schedule up in front of you?
Yeah, I got it.
Games? Okay, who would you say in order are the top 3 hardest games we have left?
It's funny. I would say Chiefs normally, but I'm tell you what, I think the Niners are scary. And I mean, I picked the Niners a few weeks ago as being one of the better teams in the NFL, even though the record didn't show it. Christian McCaffrey comes in. If Christian McCaffrey stays healthy, I mean, who do you stop? I mean, look how many goddamn weapons they have. They have 4 guys that can kill you in any game, right? I mean, you're waiting for George Kittle to be part of this offense. Right. I mean, but really, they have 4 guys that are different than anybody else, basically, in the NFL. The matchups are so tough for any team. If you had 2 of those guys, they have 4 of those guys that you're like, what are we supposed to do with Debo? What are we supposed to do with Christian McCaffrey? What are you supposed to do with Kittle? What are you supposed to do with Ayuk? I mean, they're so goddamn dangerous. You sit there and going, oh, what are the real 49ers? If I was a Niners fan, I'd be a little frustrated going, okay, well, you have all the weapons you need, Kyle Shanahan. What is this team really about? But the Niners scare me the most, so that would be 1 for me. The Titans scare me because of Derrick Henry, and I just don't know if the Chargers are able to stop the run and Derrick Henry, what the Chargers do. Just because of Tennessee, nobody can manage the clock like the Titans because of that running game, right? I mean, they can completely sit there once they get the lead and just burn the clock out. And I tell you what, I would probably take the Raiders. I think the Raiders are getting scarier and scarier as the season moves on.
How do you see it, Mario? Who are your top 3?
So number 1 for me right away is, I agree with you, Dave, is the Niners. I made a joke earlier this week to my friend, and I stand by it. The Niners are giving Shanahan everything he needs for his offense, but a good quarterback. But he's finding ways to win, and it's going there scary. They're a playoff team. They're a top team in the NFC. They're a physical team, and they love to run the ball, and we struggle to defend the run. So really, really worried about that. Second for me, honestly, has got to be at the Raiders. I'm going completely off recent bias, just seeing how crazy that stadium has been in their last game against the Texans. That worries me, man. I mean, that worries the crap out of me. It's almost like we're praying for a bunch of those people to be betting on the Chargers spread that game. And, suddenly they're going to switch sides, start cheering for us. But, Lord knows if that will happen. So I think that's second by far. And that could hurt us pretty bad in the divisional rankings as well, just because of, we don't have that tiebreaker anymore. So that really worries me. And then for lastly, I think I want to say Tennessee, but I just also wonder, can Derrick Henry stay healthy throughout the rest of the year? Going into that matchup. So I'm not going to say that one. I'm going to go a little bit different. I think it's going to be Kansas City. And just because of the importance of that game, we have to split with the Chiefs. You have to. If you don't split with the Chiefs, you're put in a very dangerous situation. We were put in a bad situation to make it into the playoffs. So I think that by far, very worrisome game in terms of the future. That's huge.
I agree 100% with you, Mario. I have the same top 3. If you're a Chargers season ticket holder, you got to be really happy about these remaining games at home because you're getting a ton of talent coming into SoFi with the Chiefs. I mean, you have the Chiefs, the Dolphins, the Titans, and the Rams. You're getting a lot of good players. Dave, I got to ask you a question because we can't go through this whole show without talking about this. If you were on a 9-hour flight from Denver to London and some guy started doing high knees and calisthenics on the plane, what would you do?
I'd be saying, look at this effing guy. I'd be bumping the guy next to me with my elbow going, can you believe this effing guy? Dude, let me tell you, you used the word weirdo, which always cracks me up a second ago. I don't know if you guys saw Russell Wilson talk to the media today. Dude, he is a character. I mean, who are you, kid? Like, what happened to you? Like, you were the kid that was North Carolina State, Wisconsin, the one that everybody rooted for. And now you're just cannot stop looking at the camera. It is so strange that Red Light Russell seems unaware of his surroundings and who he is, right? I mean, it's almost like, is it the same thing? Everybody named Russell's a whack job? Because Russell Westbrook is completely unaware that he can't shoot anymore. It is bizarre, man. When I watch him address the media and look at him stare at the camera and the way he's talking is like, if anybody walked into my home, like his wife would say, Russell, who are you? What happened to you? How many times have you been hit in the head? You are a whack job right now. Like, come out of it. Who is this guy? Because he's not the same guy he was in Seattle. He is so strange. I don't even know what to say. And if he was my teammate, I'm like, dude, we got a losing record. Like, we're a complete embarrassment right now. They're lucky they're playing Jacksonville. I do think they probably pull out a win this week. But, dude, he's nuts, man. He is so frustrating. If I was a Broncos fan, I'd have to turn the TV off. I don't want to hear another word from Russell Wilson and your stupid phrases. Stay away from let's cook and everything else you're saying. Let's ride, all this other crap. It's embarrassing. Just shut up. Throw a touchdown pass. Read the defense. Who are you? And we put a whole franchise at risk for 10 years because of you, idiot. I'd be so mad at this guy. And I'm not even a Broncos fan, and I get mad when he starts talking.
It makes me sleep a little bit better at night knowing that they're locked into him till 2027.
Yeah, I do love that part.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. And the funniest thing about it is like when you hear those stories of like an athlete doing something weird like that on the plane or like just some weird workout, it comes from like the other guys that they're like, yeah, like Russell was doing this. It comes from Russell.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
I did it when everyone was sleeping. Nobody saw it, but let me tell you what I was doing. Okay.
Yeah, like what, dude? Like then that's fabricated. That's not that true. You probably did that for a minute. You're like, this is a good story. But I got to do in case someone wakes up. Like what, dude?
Dude, what if you're one of the drink ladies? You're like, sir, this is American Airlines. Can you please sit down?
Yeah.
You know what? Here you go. You know how you talk about, like guys who have been great in sports for years. It's always someone else who tells the story. You guys made a great point right there. Like if it's a Jordan story, a Kobe story, it's always someone else who tells the story that you didn't know about. And all of a sudden you're like, hey, remember that time when, Jordan came into the Hawks locker room and said, hey, you guys better be ready for a long night. And then he went for 60. Jordan didn't tell that story. Yeah. Russell Wilson tells this crazy story while everybody's sleeping. I mean, why don't you just say, guess what? I cured cancer too. I mean, you're just making stuff up. Calm down. Who cares? I almost cussed, dude. Who cares if you're stretching on a flight? Dude, you got 2 wins.
Yeah.
You can't throw a touchdown pass. Everyone who plays fantasy football who drafted you is pissed off right now. I mean, not just that fan base. A lot of people are really upset with you right now. Stop.
In high school, his senior superlative must have been most likely to give himself his own nickname, huh?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, he is strange, man. You made a good point earlier. When he took Matt Flynn's job with the Seahawks, he was like the underdog, and you're like, wow, this guy's cool. Like he wasn't annoying at that time. Now he's just like a totally different person. I wonder if it's because of who he's married to. He thinks he has to be this different person, but he was not like that in Seattle. Or maybe they just hit it like Pittsburgh hit Antonio Brown. I have no idea. It is.
He's
strange.
that guy that talks to himself in the mirror, huh?
Oh,
right. Like
100%.
He's the guy. Yeah.
What does he say? What does he say in the mirror, Dave? What do you think he says?
Yeah. What does he say in the mirror?
I guarantee you walks in. Russ, you're doing great. You look great. Hair looks great. You look great. You're in great shape, Russ. No one understands you, Russ. Keep fighting. Let's ride. Let's cook, Russ. He probably tells his wife every time he walks in the house, the problem with this house, we need more mirrors. It's insane.
Dude, his workout facility, I bet's the craziest ever with mirrors. Yeah. I bet he's got every angle on everything.
Yeah.
He has a ceiling mirror, huh? Where he just looks up.
Oh, that dude has a ceiling mirror. 100% that dude has a ceiling mirror.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It reminds me of the Nick Van Exel line he dropped on me when I used to cover the Lakers, where I asked Nick, I said, hey man, do you have time for an interview tomorrow? And he goes, yeah, I do. He goes, tomorrow I'm going to wake up early so I can spend more time with myself. That's Russell.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, he's that guy.
So I'm gonna explain this very cleanly, but in American Psycho, when Christian Bale is looking himself in the mirror as he's performing something, that's
Yeah.
Russell Wilson. If he's
100%.
that's exactly what he would do. He'd just be staring at himself, just flexing and just being
Yeah.
like, God, you're jacked and you love God.
He has the mirror over the headboard.
Yeah.
He's the guy at the mirror over the headboard. You're right.
Yeah,
Good
absolutely.
call, Mario.
Oh my god. Are we gonna pick games for this week? I love when we pick games and then get embarrassed on Sunday.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's go. You have the schedule up? I'll pull it up.
That should
All
be a
right, so
weekly thing. We just make fun of Russ in some way.
Oh my gosh.
All right, I'll go. I'll go through these. In Mario, you go first. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Baltimore at Tampa tonight.
Baltimore,
Denver at Jacksonville.
Jacksonville,
Carolina at Atlanta.
Atlanta,
Chicago at Dallas.
I don't want to say it. I'm Chicago.
He's in Chicago. All right, Miami at Detroit.
Chicago. Miami,
Let's go.
Detroit, Miami,
You have Miami in that game. Okay. Arizona at Minnesota.
Minnesota,
Vegas at New Orleans.
Vegas,
New England at the Jets.
New England,
Pittsburgh at Philadelphia.
Philly,
Tennessee at Houston.
Houston,
Washington at Indy.
Indy.
San Francisco at the Rams.
Oh, San Fran,
Giants in Seattle.
Giants,
Green Bay at Buffalo.
Buffalo,
And then Monday Night Football matchup, Bengals at the Browns.
Bengals,
All right, Dave, real quick.
Okay.
All right. Baltimore at Tampa.
I'm going Tampa. Mine
Denver
are
at
going to be a lot
Jacksonville.
different. Going Denver.
Okay. Carolina at Atlanta.
Atlanta. I always miss
Chicago
Atlanta.
at Dallas. Yeah.
Dallas. Well, I don't even know if Chicago's going to score. No offense, Mario. I know you aren't a Bear. Well, I know you're closer to Chicago than we are, and Bears fans are nuts. But I don't know how the Bears score. Honestly,
they're not.
Dak is back, right?
I think it's gonna be like 10. It's gonna be 10-6.
Yeah, it's going to be ugly as
or
hell.
like something. Yeah.
All right. Miami at Detroit.
Miami,
Arizona at Minnesota.
Minnesota,
Vegas at New Orleans.
Vegas,
New England at the Jets.
Jets. Even though New England has beaten the Jets by an average of 20 points since Bill Belichick's been the head coach, I'm
That's
going
crazy.
Jets.
Pittsburgh at Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Tennessee at Houston.
Tennessee. I'm shocked that Mario took Houston. Even though that game is always a weird game inside that division, I'm going Tennessee. I think Tennessee's figured it out.
Yeah, I agree. Washington at Indy.
Indy,
San Francisco at the Rams.
San Francisco.
Giants at Seattle.
This is interesting because, man, it is a long flight, going back the other way. And the Giants traditionally don't play well in Seattle when they do go there. I am going to take the Giants. I think the Giants and what Brian Dable are doing are really impressive.
Green Bay at Buffalo.
Buffalo. Looking at that game ahead of time, like before the season, you're like, this is a must-see game. This is one of those games I do not want to see this game, right?
No, not at all. No.
How about the Packers looking at Donald Driver? What about that
What?
story?
Is that real?
That came out yesterday from a verified account.
No
Yeah.
way, dude.
I know they're eyeing AJ Green, but drivers.
Yeah.
It's about the same age as AJ Green, so
Dude, Driver was on Dancing with the Stars like 6 years ago. I mean, what the hell? All
That's
right,
wild.
go ahead.
And then last
ahead.
game is the Bengals at the Browns.
I'm going Bengals. Now, here's what I think is funny about that game. It's Halloween, right? On Monday.
Yeah.
Like, did they make that game on purpose because it's Halloween colors? Like both teams are Halloween colors.
Dude, I like
they
that.
could. They could.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, that's a weird matchup. All right, Josh, go ahead.
I'll make it easy on you, Mario. I'm going to go all home teams except for the Raiders. I'm serious. I love going home teams in the NFL. I'm going to go all home teams except for the Raiders, the 49ers, and the Bengals. Okay. Those are my upset. Or not
49ers,
upset. The
the
road
Bengals.
Warriors.
Okay. I got to ask Mario, who's his overtime game of the week?
So I was looking at it. So I thought about it a lot. I was getting my haircut. I was thinking about it, and there's a lot of games I had to go through, and I was thinking about the whole time. And after further decision, I think it's Houston, Tennessee.
Dude, I would have picked that one too.
Yeah,
I
I think that's the OT game.
I
Yeah,
like that.
It could be even. I was thinking Houston, Tennessee, or Broncos, Jags. Could
yeah.
be, the overtime game of the week too.
Now
Those
if
poor
it's
people in
Broncos,
London, these crappy
Oh.
matchups they get. Oh my god, we're in
Yeah.
London. Like, hey, we're going to see the Jaguars again, and we're going to see the Broncos. Great. Who wants to go?
Goodell had to lose some family members in War of 1812 because he's just punished England since then. You know what I'm saying, dude? Like, we have just set war crimes to that country in terms of NFL teams and games.
Oh my god.
Dude, the people in New England are not New England. The people in England probably like 4th of July better than when the Jaguars come to town, huh?
Yeah.
Oh my
absurd.
gosh. Oh my gosh. So even though the Chargers don't play this week, they have a bye week. We're gonna come on and we're gonna do a show on Sunday. We'll recap the NFL games also to see the two teams that did play this week in the AFC West to see how that affects the rest of the division and how that affects the Chargers' chances. Again, the Chargers and Chiefs both have a bye this week. And then, of course, the Raiders play and the Broncos play. So it'll be interesting to see how things work out. But, you know, I'm not even going to say it anymore. I've said it the last few shows. Hopefully, when next time we come on, there's a trade that's going to happen. I don't think any of us are expecting anything to happen at this point, right? No coaching changes, no new players, no anything like that. Just what Tom Telesco and Brandon Staley are going to do, which is bizarre to me. Just really bizarre. Don't get it.
I agree.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll come back on Sunday. We'll talk about, of course, where this puts the Chargers after the two teams in our division play. And again, want to thank everybody for listening to Bolt City Podcast. Most of you are, or many of you are reaching out through social media now. You guys are being interactive with us on Twitter and appreciate that as well. Again, you can follow us on Twitter. We want to hear your opinions on what you think. Again, for Josh Pele, Mauro Heron, I'm Dave Pele. Thanks again for listening to the Bolt City Podcast, courtesy of Odyssey.